want water? No? Okay. It's snowing a little bit, okay? Gotta wait a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. So I'll get you candy. You want candy, right? You want candy? What you want? Okay. You don't know what you want? Whew. What's that? It's snowing a little bit, so we gotta wait a little bit, okay? All right? Just, I'm not sure it's gonna be a quick one, but quite an elaborate one. So I might spend some time over here, because mostly when I say quick one, it appears to be like, I don't know what's quick to me. I found that last very long. So, but I'll told okay, no. New Year, and I'm wishing you all, a very happy New Year. Okay, no, Malmo Kendala, Kalamal Sola, see my Bala Jata Kendala, and Harje Firimba. Okay, Avan Kunya Manning. Amanda Mankutu Kendolo Mela in Yamanukon. Guy funding Kela laughing the family, Kuloto Banket or Alamana told Betimala because cool with Tembo in the Banco can't be joy at him back. But I would kind to do all to the Noje, Kalama, Mobe, laughing the family minted drangale, okay. And Tankakatan in Katatola, and the Masakunda Kurwan Philiban Tail in the Minialanco. They criminally connive to frame young people to put them in jail and turn around, watch 2,000 or watch, Kamol Jo Kodola Minialanco I 4,000, I 5,000 Minialanco near rent from Bondije. It doesn't even buy you a bag of rice and turn and say we're creating jobs. The same people will watch over 200 people die at sea out of desperation, out of hopelessness and of course helplessness. And turn around and appoint 3-4 people and tell us, oh, that's youth empowerment. And then you hear regime apologists, pretentious neutrals coming down on social media telling us, oh, yeah, this is great, it's in the great direction. But already that speaks to apologists and the way they behave, So what we watch people from a distance and we are very careful how we interact with people. Or that is one thing in life. All along, and in the way you interact with people. And that has always been life for me. At a very young age, I noticed that Yundunia manjare kukula. Baratonyani intilunga drona kwaida. Ila ke barol to ifo kumol to imanyalto, even in public. Now, where I want to start this conversation from is, is it an NPP page called NPP Must Go 2026, something like that. Was brought to my attention yesterday, where somebody flatly was calling me, not really somebody, let's say now that group, an NPP as in a party, because if the group is named after NPP, and it's got over 75,000 followers, and it has this record of posting people, insulting them, castigating them, and saying all kind of trash about them, and if the regime never condemned it and never said anything about it, therefore it is a regime propaganda tool. So I've concluded that this is the page belonging to the NPP as a political party. It's been 2 years and 3 months we've been talking about Hussein Obojang and who killed the cops. And of course, no political party has ever taken a stance to either use its page or any associated page to castigate or insult what I got to say. Because ntabuka kuma for me alonka man fellonje, or I just outrightly want to be ridiculous to people. That's not me. So I'm not here to tell who I am and what somebody else try to define me, because Nimantalong, you can't define me because you don't know me. And when you don't know somebody is when you basically say things that you have no clue about. And ikomo min kanendroke fanya fola drona kanendroke kadika kumalle fo imam minelo minimum koyima. So something like that is abukone wulta bile molu bana nebe kumul fole mami yalonko. You're just saying them out of anger. So umu fani yalla so you can't fole, because you're angry with somebody but you don't know what you're talking about. So to get into the discussions proper, to have a whole political establishment and its propaganda media tools. What's wrong? Give me a sec. It's cold for you. That's why you needed to stay inside. I was running away from you, but you don't listen. Okay? You alright? So, a propaganda, tool for the regime that is hell-bent on insulting people, that's got no message to refute what the claims are, will often resort to, kumakalantamfolo. But I will not take that threat because that's not me, and I will not reciprocate that. But kumadantambe je lafta wo folali. Atol mantelong, imam balong, imam falong, imam wulud lalong, iko ikafantele domi haram. I've said a lot about political establishments, and neither moment long you look at me and tell me domi haram. NPP, kulluhum motaje, mi wulu nyani nyadantet. Allah pati bekono. Motaje mi wulu nyani nyadantet. That is where you want to get to. I would get to that with you. Ngo. Domi harambi molen gen because intabuka wandi dingol la furelo kungol wulindi kasafo dundi singol kota simply because I want to be a president. Ndabuko okay. Andun tanano fokela na dunia balu kono. Ngo man mengen di oye domi haram man duma musa jog ay newi jambour di ekati sen bopay di fa tek ay téré ngir nek pour am nguur man duma def lolu. I'm not that person. Koto umari wulu nyama nyanteti mole min kuriyate jowyate hasidiyate jalambatoloke fay manda wala foka wandi furelo ko ngol wulindi ka safole keje pour danko droy tol yaman saya wala supportal ta kuma fola non tema wala wulu nyama nyanteti e bal man din wulu min fisiyade nteti Allah tala tinya nan way ani waxante lu ñaaw. NPP as an entire political entity, ngo moteje, ndala nga fol, moteje mi wulu ñañi ñatante. And then supporting a regime that is hell-bent on suffocating the Gambian people to turn around to say, oh no, this domi harama dunta jambola jana moro. Afonya bang, from the top to the bottom within your political establishment. Kan mo mako gen judu. Allah ta wala moya. Bara ko killing al nyanta wala lon mane atol kam fa ta dun tan na ma ko NPP al dun ta jar bota jana ko killing doron wala yal kam fa wala nyinte ko the question who killed the cops wala atol kam fa bara mol min ya lon ko wala be mararo la Gambia for the last 9 years police all fada fanya jawala o banko kam mol wulte ka atol nyinin ka who killed the cops atol ko question o ta nyinin kala atol la outrage against me to a point that you could actually call me all kind of names and whatever that you people want in your political party. But today, you know why? I have family members and relatives who still support the NPP. What a new waliaje. That is a moment that they would of course withdraw from that party because now do ta mantafo. Mama most of the naman ke ba adin Khadija, what you want? So that's a way to actually reduce your numbers, and which is very good. But again, it explains to Gambians, and I would also just try to basically, dissect your statements. Alko. And the funny thing is, Alko Omar Malmo Yaya Jame. Oh, what am cooking the ballot? Now my son name is now Sambo. I am Yaya Jame Dingo. Okay, kuta. Anungalo nentafana ngakweta ntelaloko. Hani Yaya Jame would be happy to have a son like me. Alayalom kilayalom. Ngo, hanalka bulamin noma B. He would be very happy to have a child like me. We never relied on any politician to get to a different level. And then when I look back, I don't talk about me, but when I look back from where we came from, in the typical communities of Brufut to where we are, Alatento, Amantambiwala. Those who know, and those who don't will always just talk bullshit. Moro, if you look at his track record, he is 0.1 compared to where we started from and where we got to. So, atoluma halal entolti anda nen soro la dunia muk dami ya lon kon tol batol jibe la nga nyabo sota la ko la ntamanke wodinti. And that does not mean that we don't need people. We respect people, but we don't worship people. That's not me. Ntamanke ofoninkete nyimbanko kamia lon ko is going to be a political propagandist for a particular regime for him to be able to get a position. I don't do that. And besides, I don't need nothing, not even a political position. Haninka mini form of support ni nada mansakunda, even a ministerial role I don't want, because what I do is probably at a higher level, which is not important to talk about here. But aside, let's look at the statement itself. Itoloko. Yeah, man say 22 years and I never even came out to, condemn his atrocities. But here I am every day asking who killed the cops. You know what that is? That is guilt. Because quite a Gambian will be lako. Yeah, la man sakunda mo falu kele. And wolmu kula the minister but it is sodala. What another atol batol compare can to jamme to tell me that iman jamme ta condemn can to let ta condemn. What atol sondalo katol le police all far. Nalwe safero lal kimi lal kamine safe. Albuka diamu nyama atolier. Ngo. Hani ayatara fonde I was dancing at Jamme's political rallies and supporting him or working in his government, which none of this ever happened. Ngo. What another atol kontema yaya ala mo falu condemn. Why am I busy asking who killed the cops? What atol sondalo katol le police all far. That I should have condemned Jamme before condemning yours. That is already guilt. So what I told Sonta Loco Police Sayale Kulonjele. But you know why the outrage is now? Because we are at the tail end of the case and you already knew you have failed beyond reasonable doubt and you had presented nothing in the case. And of course the Gambians will turn again and ask you who killed the cops. Because Atole Alonjumale Police Olofa. Because to tell me today, oh, you never condemned Jamme's atrocities. Jamme became president when I was just 1 year old. Maybe that's what you want to know. And just calculate that to 2016, how old would have I been? And when did you expect me to be in politics? But let's also answer that part of it. Allah Adam Baro, me along Kalba Bulaka Noma B. Tilibula Suta, whatever time. Is the same person that confessed to us that during the early days of the junta, he was actually the go-to person for the, the photos. That he was at State House celebrating the junta when they took over a democratically elected government. What I told Sante Doyano, me alonko Kabriya Abimansa Kundatala would have been 1 or 2 years old, and then the person whom you are supporting, vehemently about to die for, even insulting and castigating, and want to spill blood for, was actually at the State House celebrating the junta, and of course was the go-to person. Let's say he was the photo record keeper for the junta, that he was in Banjul, Nisula, the Momola, Natalo, Lekanaka, Bulu. That is the biggest enabler of the regime at the time. So now tell me what exactly Malmo did for that government. Or simply because I bear Jola surname, I'm very unapologetic about that. That is who I am. Andunte mansila mola wala. Andunte buka malu wala. Moro, Jawara Jamano, you reduce Jolas to nothing now, manke, fenkolti, ikafe nyadi la fangatondi, guard people and watchman holding, cleaner in offices. Jammeh established the University of the Gambia that empowered every Gambian to get an education to a point that there is equality in the system. Jolal buka kenu fende na manke fenko de aton de soja rolti mbindanolu anin fenko le ka fo nyadi le cleanalu anin messengerlu anin fenko le ka fo what exactly is the name again anin kake watchman rolti dulalto mto nyadi, even though some of you would not want to hear it. And that is not being ethnicist, because this is basically how you characterize everybody. Because he has a Jola surname that you came to realize, oh, every Jola to you people is a rebel. You think people shy away from ethnic, rhetorics? I don't shy away from them. I speak them right from what exactly happens in society. Niaje bi atolo betala fonya be wurla je wanting votes. Ngo, natolo konte ko, oh yeah, you basically was supporting them when actually you cannot even tell. But that is basically based on some ethnic whatever. Ala fonya fabakar tombo njada ka jumala support no. Sirinja ka jumala support no. Momodi sabali be jumala man sakundano. The very many ministers who actually serve this regime, current ministers in this regime, who were they supporting? The founders of NPP, some of them, Jumala support no. Ahmed Gisani Moko Benum Party Jumala to know. But I don't Bao Kujula Contola Bentela, Monena Mantaja political platform to, Moneta Deneka Fintin de Lavoko, Afela APRC, Denuko, or not even any of these people within the NPP, Mia Loco, APRC in Kolomito would actually tell you that we know this young man. Because nobody ever heard of me when it comes to politics and political cool. Because look, I was a little kid going to school. But the whole point became that when you actually jailed and my own homie that I went to school with, then you actually called us to order. You actually called us to the conversation, and we are actually going to be on that conversation. I don't shy away from that. From one point to another. But again, let's look at the NPP and their outrage. Ngende mandomi haramla, lutah man may like the Sagzur, who killed the cops. Moro, fatolo man lafika alonjumale police ulfa. But again, it is this regime that went all out to tell us that Usain Bojang was a rebel. He killed the cops. He actually is a member of the UDP. Why did you not actually analyze all those lies from the people that you are supporting, hell-bent on fabrication and deceit? And this is the regime. Some of you would come out, they appoint 1, 2, 3 people and you say, oh, it's the best. It got to stay for another 5 years. Regime apologist. So the person behind that page, ita malibali ding, fallombali ding, supporting people, mini alongo ka wandi furel le kungolo wulika sa fol dundiji. Ita ko ikantele ne, ita no. Look, if there is anybody to insult or to actually tell rubbish to, it's not me, because atol wulu nyama nyinyante from top to bottom. Albe jikiri mimfangola fal labong, al wulu nyama nyinyante. Alman dunia lonti, alman fenke nyontanku ke nyumbanko ka naman ka molla bankulo na fulo sunya. And then, for over 200 young people to lose their lives on the way to illegal migration because they lost hope in the regime, lost hope in the government, lost hope in the country altogether. Because inequality has been widened. Imagine NPP conducting a whole mega rally in Mahmuda when young people in this country have died in a reckless way. That should have been a national emergency that requires the president and the entire government machinery to look at, urgent solutions to that matter. But they don't give 3 Fs because all they care about is their political position and to continue to lead that country in the way they want it. And that is why they had to organize a mega rally. But because you need an NPP membership card to even get access to scholarship. And then if you want to tell me, oh, you did not actually condemn Jammeh's atrocities. Jammeh's regime, APRC as in a party, never, as far as I know, established a scholarship scheme for its party members. The university lole, it put all scholarships through either, office of the president or Janaton the ports or, higher education ministry. But I told the Alco saying NPP scholarship or sorta. But how do people apply to those scholarships? Do you actually open application for people to come and apply? No. It has to be based on NPP membership. If NPP is to do anything for you, for you to get a job, you need to get an NPP membership card. So, opportunity to get a job, to work for your country, or to actually get a position in that country must be based on NPP membership card. For a whole president to sit and say that to people and that the whole country feel that we are okay. We should all be outraged because that is nonsense. Among from Fedi. Maybe I'll malon from Alcamina. Tell a baradalt. Go. for you to stand at an NPP platform, being voted by every Gambian to lead the Gambia, and of course you take an oath to be fair, and of course to be honest to Gambians, unless yalka for koning NPP membership card tebulu, imanta NPP scholarship soda. What is NPP scholarship? Is NPP a business entity? Where does NPP get money? NPP mi alo kunun na lord haneta nan su tebulu, wale kodo bonne muntol na manke kamola masakunda la kodo sunya, through tilimbaliya in the schemes that you actually frame. That is why we are seeing key members of the NPP, mini alonko kunun, you know, inganga kulujaro lobeja moli nyabela, you know, Wolkata, they are having, you know, packets of money, giving it to artists when young Gambians are dying at sea. This is the government that you people tell us that we should continue to have. Many alonko, they should have been here just for 3 years, but they are continuing for 10 years and now want to continue for another 15 years. What exactly do we want as a country? So ñun lam kuti ñanta ñoo ñinin kala minna. Ngo, this person you call ñinjankadingo wala wulu ñañi ñaata ita ika bula min fango no. I will not actually downplay this one because we will actually get to the limits as you people wish. NPP masakunda ñanta boylale. Katu yimanke mo kendeliti, mo kende jikotela, mo kende mankutotela. And then to tell people that to get position in government, you must hold an NPP membership card. To tell women that they need to hold membership cards of the NPP because actually a women empowerment scheme so that kodo dontoro kodo dila NPP father business entity la teba. Actually dontoro dila no mola ngama atolo konye nunko Yaya was operating, you know, businesses all over the country. Fengo fe yaje dong ayada dunje. How comes a political party telling us that they are going to run a financial scheme for it, you know, for people in that country, and now they're actually relying on what people got to have membership cards to get government jobs, and of course membership card to get, you know, financial support, membership card to get scholarships to go to school. And this is what they told us, that the government of the Gambia is there for all Gambians. You know, Mukuti Gambian ko nyanta minilonna. But that is why in a country where poverty is highly pronounced, because Mansakunda injects poverty on you to a point that they, you know, force you to join them. Kado abewol kono modol ngameni jaja wol kera no ministality B. Ye will force you to join in the, you know, NPP not because of their own volition and will, but because they are forced to do so, because near Mola, Hanala Sotobulol, Ye Bemuta, you cripple all of them, and they got nowhere else to go, and that is the only country they could live in. They have to come and support you to survive, and that is exactly what the regime does. So Gambia, in a multi-party democratic system like that, the regime always have the advantage of suppressing and subjugating people and forcing them to join them. Abukobi Dobala, many alonko, they cannot pay universities for their children, and of course, it's either I join the NPP, while I or better I join their membership card, but fo banko nyanda tamala wala nyam alanga mbolo do nyobulo opposition lo nganyim banko falino najeko. It's not about the individuals who want to become president, but it's a structural failure of the country, and then deliberately standing individually on your own to run for office is actually aiding, you know, the continuity of this disgusting regime, hell bent on manipulation, lies and deceit. You know, Mukute member sottering. And then the people that alam coming file comment unko tisemi ya akilo bitin de marse kono aya tay marse kono to buko wala bay di wala charindi don't wadiniti. I never got myself into politics, but when you actually arrested Usainu Bojang, alkonya be UDP le fania, alkonya ko be dokola Brikama area council le fania, alkonya ko you have an audio that he confessed to killing fania, almurunta audio from Kasamana le ko alkata dunaje, murunta content, of course the brief has gone very far. And then today I want to commend Lamin Jedabo, mo kendeba. Lawyer kendeba. Aya Londo Soto, aya Kuluo Soto, aya Famajio Soto, that the regime that is supposed to protect the young people of this country could be hell-bent on framing another young person, killing 2 young people already in their line of duty just to turn around and lie about their death. And of course, this was masterminded by the police. And if I see some of them say, oh, the police need to pay attention to this guy, pay attention to who, me? Because of your politics? I had no business whatsoever to do with the police. Mo kendo lo bijele, wala meta kende yare nan, wala betula kende yare ne. Akuru wala bijele, wala meta kuriale na kabirin zandar mori wato for bi, wala bijele, wala bi wala kono hane for bi, because wala dalta kuriala, wala manke mo kende jikota wala la. And you la kende abalia ni la kurial ninta pale yala mbi wala falal de anu moment asila la wala mko saya mo kile nete mo buka fa wula ina fa kotenki. But Ousseynou Bojang has proven to this country that the criminal justice system of this country, through the single narrative, prosecution and incarceration must end. And of course, he has exposed, the lack of foresight and of course, the outright stupidity of the Ministry of Justice and its employees. The police would have brought the report to you and you recommended for this matter to be taken to court. Based on what? You have seen all the red flags, but you never actually attempted to look at them, and of course, guide them properly, because albeit you are hell-bent on this scheme, albeit police so far, because it's the government that actually criminally connived to kill the cops to frame the United Democratic Party. Moto Bondilantabu. Moro, if I choose to talk about something, not even if it favors my enemy would actually make me silent. No. And maybe probably I had to say this. You see, I love to Yankuba Dabo Mindundilanum. Kapoko Ousseynou Bojang was part of his security details, and of course was with those folks during that court sitting in Banjul, and that was where Alera Musabalinyol Tulo Busajeke Buteje, and then the UDP complained that they will avenge what you people did. And specifically mentioned Pate Jallo and Babu Jang. You went on to kill a Pate Jallo and turn around wanting to frame the UDP, claiming that Ousseynou Bojang works in Brikama Area Council. That is the perfect script that was actually framed, put up by the government of the Gambia with an intention to ban the United Democratic Party by killing 2 serving police officers whose only crime is because one's name is Pate Jallo. UDP ko Pate Jallo mbanjola alto aldara Pate Jallo dofa ale murun ko dal ka fontale ko tam jankadi ngol jankadi yala tambita police fala many along ko balman kukala falman kukala. They themselves did you nothing if not to wear the uniform, go out there to work for this country, to the best of their ability. You kill them out of nothing. At least probably I'm not sacrificing my child. She's right sitting beside me. For any political office. Atol tente doya nola. Albe jikiri mi fangola watante doya nola. O ulu nyama nyi nyantete. Atol ulu nyama nyi nyantete. Atol mang, baraka di yake nyimbanko kaminta mita mola. I was not collecting rent in 2016 or when Jammeh was president. No. I was in a university teaching and adding to knowledge. Yeah. I'm not one person who got rejected an American visa 7 times. You people feel like you can just insult anybody for your politics? Barakanta yaman tambi, and of course, it's just beyond imagination that adults who call themselves a ruling political party, who do not have the guts and the audacity to come right on their own pages to say, Moro yenye mfoto nyantije, and then this is basically what the truth are. They cannot in any way refute anything I have said for the last 2 years. But all you could resort to is to come and say, oh yeah, let's go and probably insult somebody. Moro, obukan toljiya. And then there is only one thing people need to understand. And to the very many of you say, boy, ignore these people. No, I don't ignore nonsense, because a bully only understands his language, and it's good that we actually give them back that language. So wallam kultumini alonko, they must understand it. Now, going further into the killing of the cops and all the nonsenses that you said I am jealous of NPP? What do I care about NPP for? NPP pays my bills? And what has, NPP being in Gambia or not being in Gambia got to do with me? Because I never had any business with NPP, whatever political entity. But I do know that NPP masterminded the killing of the cops and, of course, did so, to frame the United Democratic Party. And that is not my own creation. It's from their own statements that they actually gave out there. They told us that Ousseynou Bojang works for the UDP. Where did they get that? Why all those lies? Now, these are the lies that Gambians need to ask the regime. Why did you lie this much against Ousseynou Bojang? Now, to turn around and want to insult people and castigate them, atolle nendi tal soto bar moli nyaka si wala katu fania fola man tambi mola min ko mole ko mbe man saya kala sanji saba ya murun ko ne ko sanji tan wala sanji tan nin lulu iko foro ya mu kan wala ti foron tan ta kuma fono no lon toluma wala foron tan wala supporter cannot say anything to us. These are the people that told us that they will bring a bag of rice to 900 or 1,000, and it's now 2,000 heading to 2,500. Cemento, barakantaya minkedawoda, and of course the deliberate negligence of the market, dynamics, trying to actually monopolize sectors just for people who actually benefit the regime to actually be the, sole, monopoly, folks within it. So we need to look at. Now, to tell us that one needs a membership card to get a position, and then comparing to some of your rhetorics out there to say, oh yeah, they appointed about 4 or 5 young people, and that's a great thing. But who are these young people? Regime apologists and outright dead supporters of the regime who are hell-bent on insulting and castigating people online for the regime. But outside of that, over 200 young people had just died, probably at sea. Many along ko wali ajelo ko jiko fong mantarantole nyimbanko kan kasabata nyimbanko kan fong nafala fong tanyeji. Out of desperation and of course, Tilimbalia, they all seek to leave the country. Mo keme fola fata. Mo sabata lokola. Many along ko, they are just regime apologists and outright supporters of the regime. You all are just howling there, talking all kind of things. But this is how regime apologists behave. You hate the regime, but when your relatives are pointed to it, you jump to, congratulate, and of course you jump to say very good things. What exactly do you believe in? Oh, this is a bad system, yes? But of course, when your associates got appointed in that bad system, you jump how high, in celebration. What exactly do you believe in? And if you want, just say any kind of shit that you want to say. Oh no, probably jealous of this, but jealous of who? I'm not jealous of ministers, let alone I Zimbabwe. It's not dika vida nyoy waxante diga. Sunya mezi lu ñuy di yëngu di ngeen xam luy diga. Allah fenna. Believe in something, don't be so double standard. And we will actually bring it down to issues happening in Fonyi. Again, you will see how hypocritical and of course double standards behave. Minister Kalantang or Minister Furunga Miyalonko, a community nurse or a CNA jump and said he's a doctor. Nobody knows where he got an education. Namanke Wuliani faked it, to be put as a Minister of Agriculture who doesn't even know the difference between a crop and a weed, who cannot tell what productivity and fertility is. All of a sudden is the one telling people that Almami Jiba Kata Hotel or Letuaning Musolo Ning Adunta Jaba. You all within that region know that this guy is outrightly lying, but you will not condemn his lies and you're telling them, no, Almami Ning Demba need to stop this. Hey, one hypocritiality. Alafo Demba kwa Kulubaliabula. Do your politics and stop attacking people personally. Ngo, hani ayatara fango ikoite o maritara hotel ol tanim fengo. Why would you itebe wandi keba jibel alfa jibel ete ko tumi jeno la tara dung. Hani fengo feng, you cannot verify that. But you NPP ka bara wala nyama, because you people think that politics is about deception, lies and manipulation. And that is why people telling you Almami quit, don't quit. Fire for fire, because because an idiot only believes in his language, because a fool does not learn from other people's mistakes except his own. So to phone for people many alonko will be palace la NPP many alonko will man la fen na manke to la kunkilin na falti are the only people who will jump and say they are supporting this regime, because many alonko when they came to power they went to phone, they removed even borehole pumps of women gardens. They left them to inject starvation on your people, to subjugate them, and of course to compel them to join them, otherwise let them die. These are the same government that actually, militarized the entire region. Ka Senegal sojarol fandije, ibe mol bunna kidole be mol falaje, atole munu alka ka folle ko, atole be na silo kala wodla, atole be na polo kala wodla, atole be na ku kala wodla, onyo fanyani batara yala sodota. Ka muron ka walla mol jibe ka folle ko ka jenole. Jena lala tambita moja mala min batol establishment okon. Fa lafta du nyo wanyaro leki. Membe kulloto weto kulloto. Nyolong kunda konto nyinin ka teje alla minister linteng kar dole be wol kono ndolo ngam min lon nin kombe wol fala janim kombe wol sata la jang abe tinyalal within your cabinet you have even attempted rapists that we know oron tol nga ku jamala lo nyim banko kande kadon kungol jara junala, and then we've been watching a lot because we've been involved in a lot. Ngo, even within your cabinet, you got attempted rapists that we know. And they are manning very key ministries, and then if any day they cut across the line, we would actually come out and tell them where and how exactly all that bullshit happened. Wolte modoya no la nyimbanko kang. Abewal kono your key members in the National Assembly, daji kanta ya mimbe wala wabanko kang is well known all over. Modol ka palasol dol so even including Office of the President, we know how they get there. A police kundanteng. To the height of harassment is highest in the police force. Alma musolo so kairola. Alma wande musolo bula. Alma more so no, to the best of their ability. Every day you are harassing people and then using your ranks on them. We have seen you that you are taking even presidential advisors on trips, that international trips that have nothing to do with presidential advisors, that have everything to do with agriculture, but you will not pick the best of agriculture staff. They are the people who should be in those meetings. Just for them to have per diem. People living flamboyant lifestyles. Because we will quickly have a quick look at even Brikama Area Council. They are also running a scheme of this whatever scholarship stuff. Go. You don't look at one side and of course ignore the other. This political party established scholarship schemes need to be vetted. Because again, even at Brikama Area Council, you make announcement for people to apply for scholarships. And I have not seen anywhere you actually publish the list of people that you're giving the scholarship to. Is it done on party lines or is it actually done free and fairly for everybody within the country? Or is it done in each of these wards that you pick people, they independently, without any party affiliation, deserve to have it. So you must tell us the processes and procedures involved in actually giving out some of these scholarships. And that is transparency and accountability. But NPP, you must have their membership card before they would give you a scholarship. That means Gambians now must be forced to join the NPP to get scholarship and to get education and probably to get a job. Maybe Mofala, will kill it. But again, if you to tell me that I never condemn Yaya Mofal and then I am busy asking you who killed the cops, that is already guilt, because it is clear to Gambians that some people died in the Gambia who were killed by Yaya Jammeh's regime. Now, if Yaya Jammeh's regime killed the cops or killed people in the Gambia, and then you are now comparing yourself to that regime, that is already telling me that you are guilty of that crime. But your whole problem is that you don't see me openly or outrightly, maybe castigating them. But I don't even castigate the NPP. All I ask is who killed the cops. Because you cannot actually jail my own homie and expect every one of us to be silent. Thinking that, oh yeah, like some of your apologists would say, oh, you can become anything in this country. Bro, I have become something big in one of the biggest countries in the world. We don't compete on a Gambian level. So take your time and of course be at ease. Bring about equity and equality among all people, irrespective of the political divide they are coming from. So while coming for this nga delon jukal, do bahala sinit ku degu, ku mandu te ku degu. Nimmo ne ku kende kente enteta kala motimi yalon ko ka fintina hana tare ku ke min tilmo nin to nyamanta nimma fo no kullo ko na will not come publicly to actually say me or to say anything otherwise. Ngo ning ayata ratolo mon kulon police la sayato andato ko yaya e mo falla ka atolo sonta wala baren temmin atolo kon tamo jankani wolati atolbe laare min nalbe bulaka min no mi mo halal dum wala tata yaaya la korda kono foni ay kodo di la kala ftani yaaya alliance okay. And sometimes you people are very funny. Oh yeah, probably he's a Jammeh supporter because he bears a Jola surname. Yes, of course. That's exact. I told you I am very unapologetic about that. And again, secondly, nying MP mi ya longo sai obore ya kakana ratolia. Why do you need them?
And again, something about that MP, that lady who actually left the No to Alliance and said she moved to NPP. Kafoy ko kabila ta join the NPP, mole sort of for me along ko for ala do ko police or Martin Watara back where he came back. He was never reinstated for 5 years until she joined the NPP was the time that person was reinstated. That means joining the NPP is the path to jobs. That is how you people have actually reduced our civil service too. But again, you mustn't think on a political platform to say Jammeh will never come back here because of whatsoever reason. And then the same Jammeh was trying to hoo her into going to, Equatorial Guinea for some indecent acts. Wala murunta kale ko ha yankoba da wala be ja Jammeh kele kan nunjang wala ni wo olie momo endo salmanya na karte file away bare nyam musin ni wanying fada nyina dala ko atela ko ya yala ate kumande puru kata into some indecent acts in Equatorial Guinea publicly in a political platform but wa ya kilungo nala okuria nala mo fabe wala ati neta kada dipitete bi itama ala tentu ima annabi jay ite kuma tilimbalol min besi fa foma ite be bulaka min noma wala ni ya dara electional way ya boyndi ite ko hani alkana karde fa yankuba ka min endorse because yankuba was against Jammeh. Who are you in for? You think you are talking to stupid people? Para kalamta baliani London tayani faham baliado me kalabulanin and political desperado. I'm thinking that donating eyeballs and money to people who are organizing some event is a way to actually get your wish. No. And loma hamsi jola mando rek lañu xam. And one thing I do know is mola na fulu buko wala sang. Mola sota fembuko wala sang. Ñooñu dañoo gom sen doole. Wala laate tarol la. Andu ñaabe toñala la. Andu toña, like I said, Yankuba Dabo had blocked me 2017 simply because I said, 3 years was something that they agreed on with the people. I'm trying to say constitutionality was wrong. And that was not wrong. Maybe but this is a person I believe is doing a lot of work in Brikama area council. All these, wards, they're actually supporting them and all of that. So Nimol Latako, whatever alliance or no to alliance that they want to support their candidate, is their right to do so. But then this is a person who was against Jammeh. Who are you in for? The person who won Jammeh in the election is the one you are supporting. And then Ikela Fania Nila Wulia Nila Tapoliaji, oh, Barrow is even better for Jammeh. But the same people who jump and say, oh no, you should not say who killed the cops because you support Jammeh. Did you meet me working in his government? Did you meet me working in his political, whatevers? But I mean, from do kola ya la palasol do ibala masakunda lo kono ibala party from marakang atol ni wolle be alliance lo monatol ka fem fono moli. Out of desperation, you even went to that person's house trying to actually get an alliance when you were so desperate to remain as president. Albe kuriyarin ko me se solo. Albe joyarin ko whatever nobody can imagine. And out of your deceit and manipulation is how you actually hosted people from Bruford and talking to them about shit. I will not get into that because they're looking to waste and means in the way they interact with this NPP because it's a regime hell bent on lies, deceit. Who killed the cops? So what on tolla sate mo nyanta nyina lon nako nyina manke masakunda kendete mo kende jikoti landi buka baraku kendola. Ha. And Muhammad Nemega or whatever your last name is, Moro, you're spending almost an hour listening to somebody whom you think is a terrible person. That speaks more about you as an individual than the person you're listening to. Why are you killing your data listening to somebody who is so dumb in your own thinking? I don't block people because I want the message to be clear. And that includes everybody, even in the NPP. I don't block them. I actually make sure that they listen and understand what is going on. The opposition in every way, like I said, all need to come together to make sure that this regime is ousted. I don't care who leads the opposition, but the whole point is that the Gambia needs to be put on the right footing. Because Mbetaka Nyaming, we are actually getting worse than what happened even in the 22 years. But now people are being killed in this country like nothing. Imagine somebody working in a bureau. Nobody knows why they had to kill you like that. And then, you will never return. You are not safe there. Yetara la korda ko la suwa ko you are not safe there. Yetara silo fanka ima safe je. So where is somebody safe in the Gambia? There is only one person who is secured in this country, that is the president, because he got foreign troops actually guarding him. The rest of the people are not safe, and there is banditry and criminality in the country, just like any other, stateless country. They are turning this country into like, countries mini alonko, bandits so la bolla la maraloko. And they don't care how many people die, because the next day they will just go and organize a political rally. Khadija, what is that? You alright? Okay, close that. So that is basically the point that we need to look into. But what funding kel mini alonko nyaba funding kel be fala nyumasa kundabe kuriali be tapaleari, but they will come out on social media pretending, to be neutrals. Yet again they are going underground, bootlicking those people just to get positions and turn around and have other people jump and tell us, oh yeah, if this is the best thing to happen. What exactly is the best thing to happen? A government held bent on subjugating the people that actually, must, wolbe funding kel jibela molbe mol fala la sadel kono out of nothing, but no security measures are being taken to address all of that. But of course, you have your little friend being appointed in a position, and then you just jump and say, oh yeah, it's the best thing to happen. Who are these people? The sycophants of the regime. Many along through political sycophancy is how they would get jobs, because they don't believe in themselves, they don't believe in their own education, they don't believe in their own potentials, because they think they can just be on social media talking bullshit, and that bullshit will get them jobs, because now to get a job you need that NPP membership card, and of course you got to get a card because that is the prerequisite to jobs in the Gambia. So I don't really need to spend more time over here, but regularly we would still be back here to do that. I don't know, I think Khadija needs some attention. But regularly we will be back here to continue these conversations. I told the police all of Arman police of Manyan Nalkan Fara. Nia Jatolbe would la Falcon Toloning, then we are saying something that you don't want to hear. But we will not actually reciprocate that. We will continue to raise awareness on this matter for the Gambian people to understand that this regime is evil, hell-bent on lies, deceit, and manipulation. And of course, its end is better for the country. If it continues, it does not affect me, it does not affect my family, it has nothing to do with us. But of course, the collective good of this country should be the interest of every Gambian. For us to come together to see that this regime is ousted, a 50+1 is put in place, and of course the government is actually changed. Allah kuriyal nalla tapale yalla sembo warta no nyanta dannal. Wala mkuti min nyanta sotala. Ali obe lonje. And then all the crime. And then look at the police. I was still police all today. I have my best of friends in the police. But after the killing of the cops, I also know that the worst of criminals are in the police. And some of these criminals, they recently promoted them to higher ranks. Police they are highly deserving of those ranks. But because they probably think they don't have the NPP membership card, in the way they execute their functions, they will not be promoted. And that is how you have reduced our structures and, of course, our security apparatus too. That idiots from even the office of the president, simply because they are presidential advisors and other non-entities within the regime, to tell the names of people that need to be promoted in the police. And the IGP, being a brother-in-law to the president, will execute it just as the NPP desires. And on killing all balcony fanan, when there are cases against young people, because you need a particular position or you want to go to a particular institution, you will of course make yourself available to go and prosecute some of these young people, because not because you believe in what you are doing, but you felt that I got to do it to actually remain in position. Everybody have actually reduced themselves to tools, so that if you become a tool, then of course you can basically get positions and promotions. Because promoting some people like that guy at anti-crime, Minko, the independent witness actually got into anti-crime through the back door without being processed in Wanyam Fanyala Besodoring. Wanyanda Kela Modi Nyanda Mimbaila police to tell us that Hussein Bojan confessed to him in the car that he actually killed the cops in the presence of nobody. Fanyala Tambirawala. That's a person who basically needed to be kicked out of the police and not to be promoted for his lies, deceit, and manipulation in the killing of men under his authority. Alka promotion o di wal antol man sila mola jande andum manta malla mola jang so ko min na mi yalon ka be den tin ngonin to nyalla atrale tapale yani fan yalla mol ka woto. That is basically what the country has been reduced to. For you to get a scholarship, you basically need an NPP membership. For you to get a job, you need an NPP membership card. For you to get financial aid or basically, whatever financial work, you need an NPP membership card. Why do you want to reduce the 2026 election to subjugating, forcing, and compelling Gambians to actually support the regime? And that includes every person that the government appoints should actually hold on to the government machinery to continue. And that includes the Independent Electoral Commission. How do we expect a free and fair election in that country if that is basically going to be it? Barale molle fa tombo waisi min yalon ko wolle molla na fulo be sunya jan tilimbalol ni mo kurun wala mol min yalon ko de imam foroyano ko do tema wala sa foroyano election o kun. And then I recently said that UDP is a formidable party. I believe they have the ability to unseat the regime when they come together with other political entities here and there. And they are the nicest people that I've always interacted with. I know how much they love us in Udabo, which is respectable. And they're people, very nice people, and sometimes even if you say something that does not sit well with them, my personal experience, they would, okay, let's have a conversation about it. And they try to give you their own points. Moro. Mantana falla molmade. Ntanga mimfonko. It's been several years of Dabo attempting to be president, unsuccessfully. To correct that, you must accept that you did not win any of those elections. But just to maintain or to retain that political whatever, I don't know what it is, does not help any political establishment. Ibe sonnala ko kula manta kuja, diagnose the problem and know the prognosis to actually get the solution going forward. But to give that consistent excuse of we have been, it's been stolen, does not hold water. And then I don't shy away from that. Dabo is a statesman. He has done everything possible. His resilience is unquestionable. And he had stood up against the Jammeh's regime for the longest he could. Of course, I agree and of course respect that. But after several attempts, he did not win. And of course, somebody from his party won against Jammeh. That should be a lesson that, but of course, if that person turned out to be the biggest betrayer of your party, and then you went on another election with that person, that also is another message. So that part of it should be diagnosed in a way. But where is the problem? Is it the party? No. Because when it comes to local government elections and National Assembly elections, UDP wins. So why does UDP not win in presidential elections? It's not the party then. Can we look at our candidate? That's something. Go. Jamaka ming munu duman toloba folale tanateje. Molema UDP kon Gambia. Kare UDP lebe mararola brikama mutundu bala te Gambia kono. UDP mararola, in KM, mutundu bala te Gambia kono. And other places, Banjul, capital of Modo, it's all lebeje. Why does UDP not win in presidential election? But mune atina natolo ko all the time. Ha yen sunyala wale atina ma win. Mune atina ibuka alu sunyawo election dolto. Mune atina area council. Look at KMC. The president has vested interest in KMC to a point that he himself came out to campaign. And of course his candidate was a sitting minister. But hanu obe aboita. Ni labda sunyaro la muna neman sunyaro ke woto. Oro. To actually solve Gambia's problem, we got to be honest and we got to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. You did not win. And nobody cheated you. Because I've seen some of the names. Earlier minister for petition obala Kaboko, all they voted, all manke Gambian. Imagine seeing BK you know. Imagine seeing the name of David Sim, Mary Simeon, told you all about manke Gambian. I don't know more long. Some of those people we went to school with, we grew up in the same neighborhood. They might have those surnames that you are not familiar with, and then because lack of your familiarity to those surnames, you concluded that they are foreigners. Hey, political baran in Tonyan in Tilingola. You must diagnose your problems to know how to solve them. Moluko, of course, if you want to lead, then what exactly is going to be the message? What exactly is going to be the message? The message you told Gambians in probably 1996, 2011, and probably all other election years that Dabo contested and lost. What other message do you have for 2026, which is different from all the messaging that you have done before? What is the new strategy to sell that candidate that you could not actually sell in the past elections? We don't like this particular person, but we are looking at it from a political point of view. Mini Alonko is irrefutable and of course is undeniable. And several attempts without success, and yet your people, your younger ones, your younger folks are getting mega success in, of course, area councils and other, political positions. Then it is not that you're being cheated. It's probably something to do with the candidate. How about look within the political establishment and probably give chance to somebody else while the all man support that person to see that they actually get to victory. Go, UDP Lawino and this particular person Lawino. What is the difference? What is the difference? If you pick Lamin Sane and he won, is that not UDP? Which is very obvious and very possible and very clear. If you pick somebody else like Talib who was there, but of course no more, what is the problem? If you pick Yankuba Dabo, what is the problem? For the UDP. I'm not saying don't be fixated with, of course, one person that you want to make president by all means. I know how much you love him, and I know how much sometimes you don't like people saying this. But tomorrow, we cannot shy away from it. We cannot. Because the entire machinery of the NPP and government was involved in the local government elections and they did not win. So if you could win to have several seats in the National Assembly, win several local area council elections, and then turn around and tell us, oh, only the presidential council, hey, I know you love your old man. I wish Gambians vote for him. But that does not seem to be the case. And that does not negate the fact that if we all love the Gambia, and if he really loves the Gambia, he would say, maybe, I don't know what the problem is, but I've not been winning. And probably let's try somebody else within the party structures who probably have the ability to win. So it's not the party. And even I see people say, oh no, some of these people insulted, one individual insulting me does not represent any party position. This is a party of very much respectable people all over the world, You come to America, they're very much, involved in your life and development. They're supporters of the UDP, very good people. But most of them very fixated with Baba. But I know because, he had probably struggled a lot, to get to where we... But Butung, Abuka Forse Moro. This is just a simple majority voting system. But if you cannot be a king, you can be a kingmaker. And this is the perfect moment to do that. And to the very few of you who would come back and say, calls a falling nola before 2026. Let's diagnose that. And let you stop deceiving yourselves. How to do that is that what is basically within your party structures as in selecting a leader. Because Dabo won the primaries and is going to be the candidate. And if you turn and say things could change before 2026, are you going to do another primaries? Even to an attempt to do another primaries, malo mimbala political, structures to and of course the processes and procedures. But the fact would be, in simple, political analogy, would be if Dabo says he's not going to run, then the person who came out second in the primaries will run. He will present body for us to vote for in 2026. Maybe. But anyway, I wish your party good luck going into 2026. What I said was really not wrong. What I said was that I believe that 2026 was a moment that party could have looked within and, of course, allow its younger people, who are actually in these councils to run for elections and, primaries and see who wins and, of course, get, a bigger coalition to support. But because that did not happen, I don't see what kind of message Dabo is going to sell that was not able, that was, that we were, or that you were unable to sell for the past elections. And that was, Gambia no min sanno sinyan lulu Malmo ibo sanno la nyadi la sign. But that's basically what I think. That's what I don't see an answer to. If you can answer that, that's also very fine. But again, I said, look within, and then you have a lot of formidable, people, rising politicians, winning elections in different councils. Maybe do a primaries and then select one of those people. That was what I was expecting. And because that did not happen, I don't see what message that one is going to use to sell this candidate that was unable, to be voted for several times. That's my opinion. And I never said that, the young people have been sidelined. That doesn't make any sense at all. Headlines sometimes are there for you to actually listen or follow. Because that headline would tell you, it triggers you to go listen to what has been said. And in short, what I did say was that pick one of these people, probably these younger persons, and they probably could lead the party to glory. But if you did not want to do that, you want to be fixated with the person you got, that's also no problem for me, because I'm not a member of that. That is my opinion, and my opinion does not necessarily represent fact of what exists within your structures. And like you believe in his ability to win. I think that, it's difficult if after several attempts it could not. I don't know what kind of message you're going to use this time around. That's my opinion. Of course, if you can refute that, that's very okay. But I never said young people have been sidelined. All the people in all these area councils and even in the National Assembly are predominantly young people. So what UDP can win? It's the presidency that you've not been winning. Albesonna walla moro. Albesonna walla. Moving aside, we go to the National Assembly. And I possibly would conclude with that. And I don't care if it is NPP or UDP or another political party. I've listened to this guy from Kiang West complaining bitterly about our healthcare infrastructure, about healthcare delivery in the Gambia. And it brought to my attention one thing. Does it have to take your stepdad to get ill for you to understand the problems within our health sector? That he went to the hospital because his stepfather was sick and the conditions he met at that hospital were so deplorable that he could not be silent about it. Moro, for the last couple of years that you've been in the National Assembly, Gambians have been facing the same shit every day. In an Amajako, it's a problem. It had to take your family member to be sick for you to talk about it. Do you really care about Gambians and the plight of every Gambian? But again, nito ko ebe masakundala doyaka wala. Moro, baranga mi ebe o masakunda kinongolo kono because you are a sitting National Assembly member. Atol laka masakundala budget on approve atolunte. I've not been in any government class because we have to be in Science 1 classes. But of course, I also understand that from people saying that government have 3 arms, and those arms include the legislature, the judiciary, and of course the executive. You are a key member of the parliament who has the responsibility to police the executive. But all these years, atole munake woto kala salary la fale family. Alamang kuke nyimbanko kami munyontankuti. Did you think of the healthcare professionals? Did you actually consider the caregivers? Did you care about the doctors and of course the nurses and of course the midwives and all kind of people who work in our healthcare facilities? Do you care about the 70 children who were killed simply because of a cough syrup that was brought in fraudulently and of course out of government negligence? But I told Lanyanto woman sakunda police la. It does not need to take my mother or father's sickness to understand how deplorable our healthcare conditions are. More so a parliamentarian who is expected to know the problems of Gambians and of course address them in parliament. But it had to take your stepdad to be sick for you to be outraged. But you are the same persons who sit in parliament, increase your salaries, give yourselves, prados, turn around and of course, give yourself big travel allowance, give yourself fuel, allowances, and even, enact laws to say that momo ya tolo neng animal sakunda dokulal, walinyanta soronale, but not only a molo neng, omanyanakela, that animal farm you people instituted in parliament. This is the worst legislature I have ever seen in the history of this country. Minika luwale dada e fangol ye, ke fangol protect, ka kodibal di fangol la against Gambians and of course civil servants. Imagine Bena Samba boy Dosimbeda bin Udefco MP, Munyo talk, Bena 10 years, he said he is entitled to retirement to a point that Hana the father from his family yo. But a civil servant who would have worked for 40 years or more in the civil service would retire and go home with, a retirement me along Kanimano Boto Atasan Nwai. And your outrage is to tell us that you care about Gambians. I think you care about your sick relatives and not really Gambians. Because Gambian will meet Obatala kono oman ke biti. Gambian will meet Obatala kono one time biti. So nimbi, ita control yoko, ita le badi wale sasa, ita wale jibe, you saw that condition. So bro, all these years, ita na malon fanko Obata dale be mola healthcare system. Ita malon molka fanyala mi yalon ko aman jari hani fengo fen, ita molon no. But this is a legislature that is hell bent on banditry and criminality, aiding and abetting all the criminal doings of the regime. One thing. Nobody should insult anybody in the civil service. But until the civil service, Fato la Fisiata Walch. Ator Solin Neng, Tanate, but a Momo Yatol Neng, Wanyanta Sorona, Omo Luasi Falet. Nyimmo falmin be kere nyim banko katolo nyamoje tilimbali al intajinte amimbe banko katolo nyamoje. The conditions of services within many organizations and of course government entities atolo nyamoje. But you are responsible for policing the government, and your outrage came out to the public to talk to who? Elafran tolonga manake wato katu itela mole nyanta minkela wali wala kete ye palaso di la purieta amasa kunda regule ita kana muro na itabe kumbola mole sai wala nyinte ko ite mela do kono moli edeta mina puruka nyimasa kunda regulate in parliament. That is why you were voted by the people of Tiang West to go and of course deal with issues decisively and where they need to be done. Barato le maneke wodo animal farm moli karte file altara sijal ko yo alanga paradol borani. You are living a flamboyant and a luxurious life when Gambians are dying at sea, Gambians are dying at hospitals, Gambians are dying in our clinics, where even paracetamol tabuka sodoje, dobiji hani glofol tabuka sodoje, dobiji hani cleaning materials to clean some of those health facilities tabuka sodoje. That did not outrage you people until it had to take your sick relative for you to understand how that feels. But the everyday Gambian is in that condition. How many years have you been in parliament? That it took you almost 3-4 years to understand that the healthcare needs attention. Moro, alanga nyone ne bula, alanga tapale ya politiko bula, ngatonya fondo ngabara ntonyala. We cannot actually change this country on lies, deceit, and manipulation. Across the board, we got to be honest to our people. And we got to do justice to our people. Molia karte fale jikoni lanno lakam. Otali jikoni lanno mafa. The entire parliament atole aja jam molka ni solo wafu jang keme lulula. Kan ni solo wafu keme konontola kai, kam motolo wafu jang guli lulula. Ale muna kewoto. You establish your so-called whatever investigation. What will come out of it? Nothing. Because even the presidency is involved in all the manipulation, deceit, and in tapaleyaru. So this legislature, atolte modoyano la Gambia. Kata atol mo sunsulu toluleti. Atolye muneke jang. Atolye munkata kulleke jang. That required or that warranted you to increase your salaries. Atolye muneke nyimbanko kan teacher mam minike mi alon ko atol nyanta la salary la fara. atole munake nyimbanko ka no sol man min ke miyati natol nyantol la salary la fala atole munake nyimbanko ka mo kote ngol man min ke within the civil service miyati natol nyantal la salary la fala ba watol le ka luwa dada batol le bul sembo batol la molle al tombo yodi alla alko hani alnge subjugate. Let's take their money and enrich ourselves. And you want to turn around to Seattle ko le doya? You see, the parliament is no different from the executive, if not even worse. Ha. Yendam ko te membe sottering. Alal fa jibe ku. Do some soul searching. You parliamentarians, watch yourselves. Because albe min na nyimbanko ka mange tilingon in tonyare tilimbali ya nintaji dinte ya dronom. Alma nyimbanko mola hati. Naman kala fangoliti. Killing nal that's a kewal sotata. But when we talk about the collective and the decisions that you continue to take, you people definitely need to make sure that you do the right thing. I don't care if the parliamentarian is from your region or is your party member or whatever. But all the outrage should have come long before your own family member got sick for you to understand that is how deplorable our healthcare conditions are. But again, you are the one responsible for policing the government. Use the right channels and methods to actually do that. But coming publicly to be outraged, when in reality, Gambian will be okumbola for be later nyaiwaji. But ete bo molo kono la mini yalon kalbe sirin parliament to dami yalon ko ali alkamoto bali di ala fangola. Al-Khalifangul la sarali lafa against the taxpayers, of course, against the civil servants, many alonko, they are more deserving. Ali retirement package, bag da Al-Fangul ye. Animal farm mantam binyina. Yenam kote mimbe sodaring. When we speak, we are not talking about individuals, we are talking about the collective, in terms of the entire parliament machinery, and of course, all parliamentarians. Al-Fangul jibeku, Ale-bara nintilingon intonyala. Just to conclude, who killed the cops is a question that nobody can stop. The undeniable, irrefutable, and irrefusable fact remains. The government lied to the teeth against Hussein Obojan, and it is backfiring. Let's wait for the judgment, and let's wait for the briefs to be submitted. Against all odds, tell me what exactly, a single tangible evidence that the government has presented in this case. But you will see regime apologists telling you, oh no, but why did he have to be taken to the border by the sister, bro? If my father takes me to the airport, is it your business? If my father takes me to school, is it your business? What has that got to do with the killing? Tell me about the killing. Tell me how connected he is to the killing. Tell me he was there. Tell me he owned the gun. Tell me he's a member of the UDP. Tell me he works in Brikama Area Council. Provide evidence and not ordinary talks of non-entities. Fahambalian in Kalamta Balia Mota Sana wala Jandi. Telling on in Tonya Albola Taman la Yinkisto. Ayalo Manjakol coming following wrong. Obara Mayela way to Fetukomal. There is nothing that the proboscis of a mosquito can do to the back of an elephant if not to break its own proboscis. While we hope that the opposition notice that the sooner they come together, the better to salvage this country from the grips of the greed that it has found itself in. Because the greedy will do everything and anything possible to remain in power. And we've already seen their tactics. And that begins even to get a job, you need to have their membership card. To get financial aid, you need to have their membership card. You see how they actually flawed with the, the new whatever budget for the next year. Obe momenti kamulla ko do taka don politiko kono pour kataka mani botol sammo kilin nale pour wole cartel fayi bare mani boto kilin dila pour ene mara sanjilulu o mani boto kile bodo malal sanjilulu ananga gambian kolu ananga diamun badi ngol nga diamun den nyol nga diamun signol ye kaje ko batami be banko kan sa dannole, and that all of them, including those supporting the NPP, are not safe in that country, because the whole point is that who knows the party that the family supports. funding killing be wulutab simply because they have lost hope and faith in this country. Purkatanyang koma silole nila dimbali be tumbunye. Who knows the parties they supported or voted for? Go. The Gambia needs equity and equality where all people living in the Gambia, irrespective of either you're national or not, can live peacefully and of course within a dignified life. But this regime has subjected our people to indignity, increased poverty and inequality. Many America big fish boy, even in the civil service there is what we call barter trade. Director karo ko I have a director do ko eten dingota antengete dingota. Atral dingolo manke bukedi. Kabirin karamo si de monson karana. Kabirin sobeya si de monson sobeyala wala kana murun ka kesun sulut rolti molla man sakundalo kono. Nyin lam kulte meni nyanta danna. Now, for the few who probably would have got 1 or 2 level of education, think that budong nimman na nga na wuri nimman sa kunday ngalle du mangan fanke political psychophante wadante do kusarala. Let me go and do that. Yun na mukute mimbe sotore. Oto alma tiloning tiloto dial alma tonya samatila alma mbenga njeko this regime has got to go, and the whole fact remains that they killed the cops. Intaman dasila ramola. And police kundato. It only alone me a police olfa. Because Niman police olfa, why are you even denying the admissibility of Mama's audio? Every day Mama is doing politics for the regime. Why did you even say Hussein works at Brikama Area Council? Why did he say he's basically, the guy in hoodie? To say he's a rebel. Well, funny, I'll never kidding. Allah Baraka man, have a wonderful Sunday and, Kai.